Tonight, Ngakma Nor'dzin will be teaching on the Four Immeasurables.
Thank you. This is a delightful topic to teach on a cold October evening. It's gone chilly here now. And the Four Immeasurables, what better topic could there be to talk about? Loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, equanimity. How marvelous. So the Tibetan for this is che-me, which literally does mean immeasurable, limitless, boundless, infinite. And these immeasurables are regarded as infinite and limitless, both from the point of view of their capacity and from the point of view of their object, the object of the practice. So the capacity of these four is said to be limitless in terms of the benefit, both to oneself and to others, that if one develops these four qualities, then it cannot be measured how much benefit that will be. And they're also described as boundless, and boundless in the sense of not being bound by self-referentiality. Boundless also meaning limitless, but they're not bound because they're not limited by us only thinking of ourselves. And they're also limitless because the object of them is all sentient beings, a phrase that one hears quite a lot in Tibetan Buddhism, and that just encompasses everyone and everything everywhere. Anything that could be regarded as sentient, depending on where one places one's view of that. Now, these teachings, the Four Immeasurables, actually predate Buddhism. And Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha, brought them into the Buddhist teachings. And he compared their qualities to the sound of a conch shell being blown, that the sound expands in all directions and touches everybody. Now, there are two ways that these four immeasurables, Ngakchen Rinpoche and Khandra Dechen often call them the four boundless stances, that they are stances that can be adopted, almost like a demeanor, that they're a stance in which we engage in as a practice. They're the path and view of the bodhisattva, of the awakened mind warrior. And indeed, if these are practiced, then the mind is certainly awakening or awakened. They cooperate with the innate goodness that is beginningless realized mind. So these are, they cooperate with that natural goodness that is perhaps occluded or hidden to some extent, and that enables that to manifest and spread to all beings. Although we talk about them and you'll find them presented in a particular order, there is no real order to these. They are all inseparable in terms of being the qualities of the awakened mind warrior. But they're often approached in two particular ways, either as loving kindness being the base of the other three, or equanimity being the base of the other three. And this was the view of Jampa, who lived in the 14th century, that equanimity was the basis of the other three immeasurables. So the first of the four immeasurables is loving kindness, Jampa, wanting all beings to be happy. And I think for me, the way to approach this is to think, what makes me happy? Because it's only really through recognizing our own wish for happiness that we can start to have any sense of appreciation of other beings having that wish for happiness. If we're so bogged down in misery that we can't see what happiness would even be, then we also can't see how we could help other beings be happy. So it's useful to start by thinking of our own experience of happiness. What makes you happy? What does it feel like when you're happy? That's a good feeling. That's a wholesome feeling. It's a loving feeling. It makes you want to be nice to people when you're happy, because there doesn't seem to be any reason to be other than nice to people when you're happy. Who and what do you love? What does it feel like to love somebody or love something? How does that affect your behavior? Such as when you're falling in love. When you're falling in love in terms of romance, then everything within your sphere seems to be a little bit brighter, a little bit more sparkly, a little bit more enjoyable. You find yourself engaging in spontaneous kindness because you're falling in love. These are the qualities that we want to extend out and feel that for all sentient beings. So through recognizing our own capacity to love, to be happy, to enjoy, to experience pleasure, then through understanding how wonderful and comfortable that is, the feeling can arise of wanting others to experience that as well. So it doesn't have to be, we don't have to be holy to feel this. Although this is a Buddhist context, it is natural for human beings to love, to experience love, to enjoy the experience of happiness, and to want those who are near and dear to them to experience happiness. So what this teaching is doing is simply expanding that and making it immeasurable, extending it out to all sentient beings. Now, it naturally follows on from understanding loving kindness and wanting others to experience and yourself to experience loving kindness and happiness, that you're going to want to remove the causes of unhappiness, the causes of pain and dissatisfaction. So this is the second immeasurable, compassion. Once again, we can start by looking at what makes us unhappy. What sort of things make us unhappy when people aren't kind to us? So we got the first two there straight away. If people are kind to us, then it's easier to want to be kind to them and to want them to continue to be happy. So compassion naturally arises there. We don't want to experience a loss of pleasurable experiences. We don't want to experience pain. We don't want to experience separation from the things that are important to us and the things that we love and enjoy. We don't want to be criticized. We don't want to lose our good name and feel that we're being blamed for things. These might be starting to sound slightly familiar because these are the 8 worldly dharmas. So the 8 worldly dharmas are our experience of unhappiness and dissatisfaction. And we can recognize as practitioners that there is a cause for this. So extending out our wish to be free of the dictates of the 8 worldly dharmas, the oscillation between those opposite factors, and through our wish for others to be happy, then our compassion extends out that we want others to be free of that oscillation of the 8 worldly dharmas. They want them to be liberated from the causes of their unhappiness. And we may be able to start noticing how we can help them be free of those causes of unhappiness. Now, these 2 of the immeasurables are loving kindness and compassion, are they're aspirational. They're looking to the future. They're an aspiration to actively be a factor or an agent of creating happiness, of removing the causes of unhappiness. So these are looking to the future of benefiting others. But they have to be based in our own experience of happiness, our own experience of the capacity of loving kindness and the capacity to remove the causes of dissatisfaction. So they're based in our practice as Buddhist practitioners and recognizing that our practice enables us to be happier and that our practice naturally starts to dissolve or continually dissolves the causes of dissatisfaction. So aspiration is beyond just wishful thinking. It's actually aspiring to be the agent that creates this situation. It's adopting the stance of loving kindness and compassion in order to make that a reality in the world. Now, the next 2, empathetic joy and equanimity, are more based in respect and observation and in looking at reality as it is. So it's more based in the past than aspiring to the future. Empathetic joy, gawa. Another word that we can use is delight. I really like this word, delight, because sometimes I think joy can be a word that is more difficult to understand, in a sense, feeling joyful about things, but delighting in other beings' kindnesses, in other beings' successes, in other beings' good luck, whether they deserve it or not, being able to delight in that and delight in their experience of happiness. This is the empathetic quality, to be able to empathize with that happiness, even though it's not your happiness, simply wanting there to be happiness and delighting in there being happiness, even if it actually has nothing to do with you. So there's no point in developing loving kindness or the wish to be a person practicing loving kindness. And there's no point in being a person who is aspiring to remove the causes of other beings' dissatisfaction and unhappiness, if when they then appear to be having some experience of happiness, you feel you begrudge it, or you're jealous of it, or you discriminate thinking, well, they shouldn't have got that, somebody else should have got that, or you're resentful because they have that happiness and you don't have that happiness. This will completely nullify loving kindness and compassion. So empathetic joy arises naturally out of loving kindness and compassion, simply through delighting in happiness, delighting in recognizing love and kindness and happiness. So we feel empathetic joy for other beings' happiness, even if they don't deserve it, in our opinion. Even if we don't like them, we don't think they're nice people. Even if they're the boss of Amazon and perhaps don't appear to treat their employees very well or give them a share of the profits. Even if they're a dictator or a cruel person. Now that's quite hard, isn't it? Being able to delight in their happiness, even if they appear to be a cruel person. But hopefully, if there is happiness, if happiness becomes a continually experienced state, if we believe in the quality of immeasurability and boundlessness of these qualities, then feeling happiness, being able to continue to feel happiness and feel satisfaction will change those people who appear to be cruel and unkind, because at some point it's going to dawn on them that they're lucky, that they're actually happy. And once you're happy, then other beings aren't seen as a cause of your unhappiness anymore. So these qualities, these stances of themselves create themselves. So we don't need to worry about taking delight in the happiness of beings who don't appear to deserve it. And so the fourth immeasurable is equanimity, Tangyong. This is feeling the same for all sentient beings as you feel for yourself. There was a quote I used in Battle Cry Freedom from Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, who said something like, we will have equanimity and loving kindness when we experience the unhappiness and pain of other beings as acutely as we experience our own unhappiness and pain, and when we are able to ignore our own unhappiness and pain as much as we currently ignore other beings' unhappiness and pain. So equanimity is disliking, being unhappy about there being pain, about there being suffering, about there being dissatisfaction. Whoever or whatever is experiencing that. There is no exception, there is no being, sentient being in any realm that would be an exception to this. So even that worm that makes children go blind when it gets inside them, even that wasp that has to lay its eggs inside another being and eat that being from the inside out. This is what happens when you watch nature programs. Even those sort of situations, we feel compassion for the creature who is in that situation having to do that, as much as we feel compassion for the child that is experiencing the blindness and the creature that is being eaten from the inside out. So it's impartial. There are no exceptions. We have the equanimity to feel that impartiality, that we want loving kindness, that we want to remove the causes of unhappiness, and we feel delight in the good fortune of all beings, whoever they are, whatever their situation is, whatever type of beings they are. Rinpoche and Kandra say of equanimity that this is the clear-minded, tranquil state which is not overpowered by the dualistic derangement of emotional delusion, dullness, or vituperate agitation. So these four immeasurables are a circle of goodness. They're a circle of being good, cooperating with innate awakened goodness and creating more goodness. They just circle and expand and expand. And if we practice them, that goodness touches people. It touches everyone you meet, and they receive a little bit of that goodness. They may not be immediately transformed into people who can practice it, but it will touch them in some way. Every time you take the time to smile at somebody or spontaneously make some small act of kindness, it touches that person. Even if you don't think they've noticed, it will expand. It is immeasurable in the benefit that that will ultimately have. Now, this circle of goodness leads to an enlightened community. And the enlightened community for a practitioner is Sangha. So we can practice these in the context of Sangha, because as practitioners within a Sangha, we trust that everybody else is aspiring to adopt these four immeasurable stances. So if they appear to have said something unkind, we give them the benefit of the doubt that perhaps they didn't realize it had come across as unkind, or perhaps it wasn't meant unkindly and we've misinterpreted, and so on and so forth. The Sangha is the enlightened community that enables us to take the risk of being able to adopt these four unbounded stances, unbound by self-protection, and allow the limitless quality of these to expand outwards. Now, as well as wanting to adopt these stances ourselves, just imagine loving kindness. We want every sentient being to be happy, but what if each sentient being wanted every sentient being to be happy? What if we want every sentient being to be free of the causes of unhappiness, but what if each sentient being wanted every sentient being to be free of the causes of unhappiness? We adopt the stance or embrace empathetic joy in delighting in the happiness of every sentient being. What if each sentient being experienced empathetic joy for the happiness of all sentient beings? We feel equanimity, or we embrace equanimity in wanting to feel impartial with regard to all sentient beings, wanting all sentient beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. But what if each sentient being was expanding that and feeling impartiality towards every sentient being. We can see by looking at it from this perspective how this will simply expand and expand and expand exponentially, and why it is limitless and infinite in its capacity. So to summarize, just to run through these four again: loving kindness, the aspiration based in our own experience and capacity to love and be kind, and wishing all beings to experience that. Compassion, the aspiration to be free of the causes of unhappiness and dissatisfaction, and wanting all beings to experience that. We know, because we're practitioners, that dissatisfaction has a cause that can be removed. So this is the aspiration, not only to do that for ourselves, but to work towards doing that for everyone. Empathetic joy is respect and open appreciation for all sentient beings, for whatever makes them happy, for any kindness they engage with, any good fortune they experience. And equanimity is the clear recognition that all sentient beings are the same. They all want to be happy, and have an impartial attitude to that, so that we too want all sentient beings to be happy. And we're going to engage in trying to make that a reality. So I just want to finish with a traditional prayer for the that is connected with the four immeasurables, the four boundless states. And you will find this in many, many texts in Tibetan Buddhism, or a version of this. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free of pain and dissatisfaction and its causes. May they never be separated from supreme happiness, free of dissatisfaction. May they remain free of impartiality, calmly abiding in great equanimity.
Thank you very much indeed. I very much appreciated the sense that you can't leave anyone out. There are no ifs or buts at all. I think that's a very powerful teaching.
It's interesting that I don't think they're taught on that much as the four. I found very little when I was researching this, that one hears about the different ones of them. You hear about loving kindness, you hear about developing equanimity, but as a group of four, they don't seem to be taught on that often.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so it was nice to do that. I like them.
Did your research take you to the period before Buddhism and how they were practiced?
Not really. No, it didn't. I couldn't really find anything on. Well, to be honest, I didn't really look, because I was only really looking at the Buddhist context. But I was interested that they had been brought into Buddhism and had existed in the Brahmin tradition before.
Yes, because it sounds like these are teachings that were brought into Buddhism as they are, whereas other teachings are brought into Buddhism but negated or adapted in some fashion.
Yeah, indeed.
That's fascinating. Thank you.